Hey everyone, let's take a look at potential units in December 2021. Well, November caught me off guard with that Trials of Mana release. I'm still very happy about being so wrong on that, but I don't think I'll be totally off the mark in December, because as it stands right now, we are pretty much in line with the JP timeline when it comes to non-global exclusive units, but I think we figured out how Gumi handles things these days, for the most part, at least. There are still some surprises left, I'm very sure. So without further ado, let's start, because this is actually a long list and there is a lot of potential for, I believe, about 7 units in December, so let's get started. 7 base near vision units, that is. Nobody should be surprised that we are obviously going to see a Christmas Clash of Wills unit. We know it's coming, and the only hope I have is that the unit isn't Eldryn levels of bad. Because if you all remember the near vision we got last year, Eldryn, that did not work out at all. Everyone was super hyped about him, and truth be told, he was trash to begin with. The only reason people wanted him was to, well, was to troll people in Arena, basically. And I hated Arena for most of the time when he came out, until we got Behemoth for that part, I think. Yeah, I think when Behemoth got released and we got our preemptive cover, it finally stopped being an annoyance. But yeah. Talking about Eldryn, I fully do expect a rework for Eldryn, probably the week prior to Christmas, so that would be December 16th. Just the same way they handled Ibarra and then released Carton just a few days prior to Halloween. I think they're going to repeat this again with Christmas, so I would totally expect an Eldryn rework. But honestly though, he would need entirely new kit to be considered worthwhile. One thing that you should keep in mind is that he exclusively chains Absolute Mirror of Equity, which no Clash of Will unit does. And if he retains all his Absolute Mirror of Equity chains, he's going to be absolutely useless in Clash unless his LB mods are increased to 300x baseline, and then added on top of that is another 500x morale based 200% morale what's it called, LB mod on top. That'd be okay. That put him to somewhat useful levels, but I don't expect this to happen. What I totally expect to happen is give him some morale mods slapped onto some of his Absolute Mirror of Equity chains and call it a day, thus still rendering him absolutely useless. And if that's the case, I mean, I would strongly advise skipping him again, unless you do like the sprite or anything. But he's a total waste of lapis nonetheless, unless they really, really buff him hard. But I don't see this happening. But what we should all expect is that the next Clash boss is going to be weak to ice in some kind of form. Probably his main weakness is going to be ice, so I would expect ice, earth, and light, to be honest, to be the next 3 elements, but we'll see about that. I mean, if it's ice, yay, Celeste. She has that 45 ice amp. I'm looking forward to that. But we might not even need a magic tank, so it is all up in the air what's going to happen. And now let's move forward to the next one. And from here on out, things are starting to get ugly, so to say. Because it's the worst of both worlds. It's an SLB unit and a premium unit at the same time. It's Legendary Guardian Auron, who is very strong, mind you. However, like I said, it's the worst of both worlds. You're getting a dumped down or glorified 7-star unit with the added quote-unquote bonus on top of being a premium unit, thus being super, super expensive, with the vision card unlocking at EX3 only, costing you a small fortune in lapis. So Auron's Trustmaster reward is a material, 80% attack, 50% Esper stats, which is very good. Mind you, this is really good. There are tons of cases where I was like, yeah, I'm kind of missing like 20% attack, but I'm already got my LB maxed, I got my killers maxed. What now? Do I want to substitute another equipment piece, or do I just go for Esper stats? Most of the time I went with the attack cap. And with this materia, you don't have to worry about either. Just slap it onto a unit that wants both, and you're good to go. So I like the Trustmaster, honestly. It's probably going to see a couple of uses throughout the game's lifespan. The Super Trustmaster is an accessory, much like Avalanche's Tifa's, 80 attack, 1k HP, 500 static attack for Final Fantasy X and 10 2 units only. I think it's all of them from 10 and X2, but I couldn't be bothered to check. The naming list is quite long, and all I spotted was all FFX and FFX2 units, so I think it's all of them. And they also gain 50% LB damage, that includes Auron obviously. And what I do expect for Global is that this is going to stack. It would be a reasonable buff. I mean, they did this for Arif prior, so it would make sense to have the stack on Global as well. The Vision card, it's another 125 attack card, 80 unconditional attack, which is nice, 100% unconditional ferric killer, which is nice, and FFX units gain 500 static attack. So much like Tifa's card or Sephiroth's card, the equivalent against fairies, it's just as good. I would have preferred LB damage, honestly, instead of the raw attack, but I kind of guess why they did this, because Auron, if he wears this card, he easily caps attack percent, but he would otherwise too. He's super flexible in terms of gearing, so I would have preferred the LB damage, but on the other hand, Auron already caps LB damage from his Chronicle weapon and one STMR, so I kind of get why they didn't slap LB damage onto this Vision card. So, how good is he? I mean, let's start with the good side of things. The good side of things is that he deals Sephiroth levels of damage, because his SLB is 350x wind physical attack. He also wears katanas. However, his katana is slightly higher attack than Sephiroth. And Auron has comparable base attack and reaches a comparable amount of attack to Sephiroth. So meaning, on equal footing, he should outperform Sephiroth very, very slightly, but due to Sephiroth's flexibility, being a Brave Shift unit that is, I still feel like Sephiroth is the better of the two. But nonetheless, Auron has an amazing TMR, he's got a neat TMR2 superb Vision card, and in the next slide that I will show you, he has essentially three materia slots for Espers, plus Esper for killers. So when it comes to gearing, he's rather flexible, but there are still a few things you cannot do with him that we as, say, Sinsa, Wanderer, in Dark Visions, Vision World or Clash, what we always constantly do is that we have our units fill two roles at the same time, like giving units passive provoke evasion, for example. Sephiroth was most of the time my passive provoke evasion unit in base form and a true LB finisher in Brave Shift. You can't do that with Auron, and I'll show you why in a second, why that does not work. Or have a lot of resistances in one form and in the other being super high on DPS, killers, and LB damage. You can't do that with Auron either. Another few things that I heavily dislike is that he only has a 200% LB buff on his Granders, as well as only 280 attack buff on his Granders. This is a unit that you're paying premium for, and you're getting non-premium buffs. Like, why does Sephiroth get 250 LB buff, a 250 LB buff, but Auron doesn't? Why does Sephiroth have a 300% attack buff, but Auron doesn't? Makes no sense. Especially for a super limit burst unit that really wants all the buffs it can get. So that is just bad game design. It kind of undermines the value of Auron that he should have as a premium unit, and especially SLB unit. So here's a potential build. It's an early draft, like I mentioned. But yeah, it's his Chronicle weapon, double STMR, his own Vision card, Magister's Celestite Regalia of Will, and that already, it caps his true double hand, it caps his attack percent, it caps his LB, and it caps 6x cap. So you have essentially 3 completely free material slots that I can use for whatever. And as you can see, Auron has 250 Fairy Killer at that, at 200 Plant Killer already. So maxing out these 2 killers in particular, super easy. It's also super easy to max out, for example, Demon. You could just replace the head, for example, for the Demon or Human Killer head from Ashura, set the correct Esper, etc. It's so easy gearing him. However, as you can see, if you want the full package, meaning passive provoke, killers, LB damage, that's not going to fit. And that's the issue that I have with Auron. Now he does have, as you can see from this build, almost 1k defense, 500 spirit. That's all pretty good, right? But in the grand scheme of things, it's just, yeah, he's sorely missing that Brave Shift, and that is why he won't see use in Clash of Worlds. At least not in Clash of Worlds high-end clears that go to further than turn 2, for example. Like, you could do Threshen with him if Threshen were weak to wind, for example. But that'd be a farming team and not an actual turn 6 or turn 10 clear team. Auron would have no place in that. So yeah, should you pull for Auron? So, again, I do want to stress this. He is premium and super limit burst. You have been warned. It is entirely on you if you spend like 50k because you only have 50k and you don't get him. The pity is 60k, and if you don't get him, that's on you for going for him anyway. I mean, he is very strong, and in some cases, mainly versus Fairy and Plant, he's stronger than Sephiroth, although just slightly. He is super easy to gear, however, please consider that he's not as flexible in gearing due to the missing Brave Shift, as is Sephiroth, for example. If you want to get burned again, I'll just mention this one more time. If you want to get burned again after Sephiroth, go ahead, that's your choice. I'm not gonna tell you how to use the Lapis. I mean, people are still spending on that half off daily pull, so, and then come to and complain on my videos that, oh, you always have so much Lapis. Yeah, because I'm not spending the Lapis. Anyway, he's super useful for physical wind, dark visions, vision world, and maybe some Clash of Will stages, but for Clash, we got that role covered with Sky very, very well. And when it comes to Clash, nobody does it better in terms of LB finishing than Sky. So yeah, in total, or in short, being an SLB unit really hinders him from being useful in Clash. He's still very good in Dark Vision and Vision World whenever the boss is weak to wind. But honestly, we've used Sephiroth off-type, so chances are we are also going to use Auron in off-type scenarios. And I mean, it's always good to have more options when it comes to enemy types. Like if you're facing a fairy boss or a plant boss, and you can choose between Sephiroth or Auron, obviously you're gonna pick Auron. Unless your strategy wants you to have a Brave Shift, that is, obviously, then you would still use Sephiroth for that matter. And I mean, gearing Sephiroth for Fairy Killer isn't that hard anyway, so I guess. Alright, and with Auron, he's on a raid event by the way, comes Jecht. He's also a super limit burst unit, and as you can see, Alum has become pretty lazy lately, and his super limit burst theme will continue throughout the next couple of units too. That much I can already tell you. And Jecht mainly got some kind of overhaul of his kit, but he didn't really gain any new abilities or passives other than EX plus 2 and EX plus 3 passives. That's all he really got. His NVA base limit burst that you see at the in the middle of the screen, it's literally the same as the 7-star limit burst. There's no changes in what it does. There's also no changes in mods. It's literally the same. And his SLB is a 230x physical damage attack. I think it's a single hit as well. It just doesn't show on here. It's okay. I mean, he is just he's a flex element Titus for that matter. But he also increases human and fairy killer just 100%, so nobody's going to care about that. We've got what's it called? We've got Ling for 150% to everyone. We've got, I believe, Bulwark should have 150 to everyone as well. So who needs Jecht for this? If you have Tidus, and all of you probably will because he's free from the unit banner coming up on... No, this video is releasing after you know. So every one of you should have Tidus already. So yeah, I'm recording this on Monday, by the way. Well in advance of Yuna releasing, so I got confused. Anyway, every one of you should have Tidus by now. So there's no point in really getting Jecht to EX +3, honestly, unless you like the unit for some reason, which would be weird. Moving on. Next SLB unit is Shoreline Physalis. Now I know people will tell me, wait, it's winter, we are in December. How would they release a summer unit in winter? Well, they did the same with Shoreline Phasey. Nobody bat an eye when they did that in November last year. So there's nothing stopping Gumi from releasing Shoreline Physalis in December. And truth be told, it's the next logical thing. We don't really care about themes anymore when it comes to Shoreline units, at least. It's just a seasonal units such as Chinese New Year in, I believe, February, Halloween on October 31st, Christmas units, April Fool's units, or Easter units, I should say. Those are the actual season units, but summer, who cares? We can release summer units in winter. They've done it before, they will do it again. So Shoreline Physalis, Trustmaster, is a materia with 4 LB crystals per turn, 50% true dual wield magic. It's a weird combination, honestly. And other than on herself, I don't see much use for the true dual wield magic, but I kind of appreciate the 4 LB crystals, which I like. The Super Trustmaster is a magic gun, 190 magic, 50% true dual wield mag, and Physalis variants gain 500 static magic on top. I mean, this is a pretty decent gun. It has no element. It's single hand, so you can technically wear 2 of those. And I mean, it's good for other mages, that's for sure. Like if you could equip, say, you could equip Igni with this, for example. That'd be an option. If you give him equip gun, that is. So there are a lot of good things to do with this gun, honestly. The vision card is shared with Coastal Freesia, which is the next unit that I'll be going to talk about. 60 base magic, 60 base spirit at level 10, 25 a magic spirit at 4 and 7 respectively, and female units only gain 50% magic and spirit through single wield, meaning with or without a shield. And they also gain 50% true dual wield magic and spirit, which is okay. I like the level 10 passive, honestly, but the rest of it is trash. So yeah, how good is she? Her super limit burst hits rather hard. It's a 300x modifier, and she has an ability focus, or I don't know if it's going to be called focus, but it's the it does work like focus. You can stack the magic up to 300%. And if you do that before you fire off a super limit burst, she's going to hit pretty hard. But she only has innate triple cast, no quad cast. She needs 6 stacks, or you have to stack the ability 6 times, meaning you're essentially wasting either 2 turns without magic buffs, or killer buffs, LB buffs, or you're wasting a third turn just to buff her up. Your choice. Another bad thing about her is that she can only use guns innately, so no rods unless you equip rod, unless you equip upgrade package, yada yada. Just like Auron, she only has 280% magic on her Grandis, which is stupid. She only has 35% water amp for herself, which I also find stupid. She only has 100% true dual mag innately, thus limiting gearing, because you have to kind of wear her Super Trustmaster twice to get the full benefit, so that locks her out of better options. And yeah, she's hardlocked to guns. Her Trustmaster passive is that she gains 100% magic when she wears guns, so I don't like that one either. And another thing, she's a super limit burst unit, and I've complained about this countless of times already, but it's still worth pointing out, she's a super limit burst unit and she only has a 125 water imperil on her super limit burst. Like Cacteria has a 135 water imperil. So yeah, go figure, who's the better unit. So should you pull? I mean, she does hit pretty hard every single turn, or technically every 4 turns if you're being honest, with a super limit burst, and then doesn't do anything. And she also does absolutely nothing, and you are technically speaking better off using Angela when she's imbued with water on an actual water team. And yeah, that's about it. Her STMR is pretty nice for gun builds on actual mages that do real damage, such as Angela for example. So yeah, in total, she's one of the easiest skips ever, and I will most certainly skip her. Next up is Coastal Freesia. She was released alongside Shoreline Physalis on the JP server. I'm expecting her to get released alongside her as well. Her Trustmaster is a staff, 80 magic, 140 spirit, 10% MP recovery, and 4 RB crystals per turn. But the real kicker here is the Super Trustmaster. It's a Mediena 200% true single wield spirit. That is, truth be told, the spirit equivalent of Pause's magic STMR or NV Cloud's attack STMR. And we finally have our 200 spirit true single wield that works as true double hand as well as with or without a shield. Excellent. I'd love to have that STMR for units such as Shuyu, for Aerith, for example, or Yuna, who came out on Thursday. It's also great for her, and I think Yuna even wants that STMR to cap out true double hand or true single wield spirit, so pretty neat. Vision card, like I mentioned, same with Shoreline Physalis. So how good is she? I mean, omega good and important STMR for any true single wield or true double hand spirit user. Shuyu, for example, rejoices, but I think it's going to take a few more months until Shuyu is actually relevant again when she gets a rework for Clash of Wills later in a few months for Chinese New Year. We'll see. I'm very hopeful for Shuyu. Another good thing I like about Coastal Freesia, and that's the last thing that I like about her, is the 300% LB boost on her SLB. But other than that, I mean, the bad side of things is really telling. She has a 30% wind amp and imbue for the party. Bulwark and Bards have better. Both are on cooldowns, mind you, but they are 45 baseline. Her 45 wind amp and imbue is locked to her SLB, thus limiting its use. You either wait 5 turns for that 45 amp, you wait 4 turns, or in a best case scenario, you have her at EX plus 3 for whatever reason. You get it on turn 3, but Bulwark and Bards can do this turn 1 right away. So yeah. Another thing that I find rather stupid is her 100% magic Reaper Killer, which does not add physical killer. Her EX plus 3 ability is a 160 aquatic killer, physical and magical, but her Reaper Killer is only magic, but it provides mitigation to both types, meaning mitigation to both types, so physical and magical. What's the logic behind that? Is there even a logic? I mean, her whole kit is an entire mess, and I'll get to that point in just a minute, but she also has no wind imperil and only 300% stat buffs on her super limit burst. Like, what is this unit? She's really just here to bloat the NV pool, honestly, and give us a good STMR, but that's about it. So should you pull, please don't pull for her. Please don't pull for her willingly, I should say, other than the STMR. Coastal Freesia is declared a support unit, but fails at that role miserably. I've never seen a worse support unit in the game, and I've been playing this game for 4 years almost now. Never seen a worse support unit. Her SLB is a complete failure in design because everything it does is equal or worse to what we currently have. and it's just not worth it. So yeah, she's only good for the STMR. There's a decent off banner, but truth be told, just skip her. Because before true single wield or true double hand units become, or spirit units become relevant, I think we're gonna have about 1 billion copies of her in our stash. That's the truth. We all have to face it. And then, a little bit more exciting, I do believe that we are gonna get Dragon Quest this month, means December. It would fit the timeline. We should get a regular Dark Visions, because on a JP server from now on, Dark Visions and Vision World alternated. So next month is Dark Visions. In January we should get the Legend of Mana banner with Vision World. Then we're getting a regular Dark Vision in February. In March we're probably gonna look at Xenogears, for example, with Xenogears Vision World, etc, etc. So I think this is what Gumi is planning to do, and this is why I think we're gonna see Dragon Quest, Alina and Marquise de Leon. I talked about them last month already. So 60% attack, 100% LB fill rate and guts on their Materia, which is very strong already, truth be told. Super Trustmaster is a fist, 188 attack, 75 LB damage, normal attacks are twice, which I like personally, and 50% physical human killer, that's decent. Vision card is shared with Zoma, which is another SLB unit that we'll be talking about briefly in a few minutes. 100 base attack and magic, 25 LB damage, 50% physical magical dragon killer, and 300 static attack, magic, defense, and spirit for Dragon Quest units only. Pretty okay, if you're asking me. Nothing too special, but it isn't bad either. So how good are they? They are the strongest tag chain at 250x, but on the other hand, it's just a 250x tag SLB. The STMR is great, and the vision card is great too. The bad thing about them is that their damage is already very far behind. They are not relevant anymore. They are an SLB unit, so a SLB unit, and thus not really worth spending for. They also don't have any relevant breaks, only 80%. By the way, Auron in Final Fantasy X was considered a breaker. He is not a breaker in FFBE, by the way, just saying. They have a lame kit and only 100% innate equipment to do wield attack, which is rather annoying to deal with. So yeah, should you pull? I mean, they are straight up unusable in Clash of Wills, and they are also only mediocre for Dark Visions and Vision World for that matter. Being SLB makes them rather uninteresting due to missing gear flexibility, and they are not flexible in gearing, let me tell you that. They are a huge issue to gear. Damage, like I mentioned already, behind current global units. They are not worth spending the lapis. And if you wanted them, I'd spend a few tickets maybe, but you shouldn't really waste lapis on them. Because the other unit, which we'll get to now, Zoma, he is the real deal on the Dragon Quest banner. And the main reason for that is his Super Trustmaster, which I'll get to first this time around, because it's 80% magic, 75% LB damage, which is pretty much what Hawkeye and Sora from Kingdom Hearts already have for attack users. This is the magic equivalent. It has been much needed for many, many months, and we're finally getting it. And it's still relevant to this day, so I like that the Super Trustmaster is going to come to global finally. I do want to have it, and I personally will pull for Zoma, but a single or two copies will be enough just for that STMR. The TMR is a robe, 12 defense, 67 magic, 42 spirit, 50 ice dark resistance, 500 static magic for Zoma. And Zoma himself also gains full LB at the start of the battle. So I'm kind of curious to see how they will manage his EX plus 2 abilities, if he even gets any. Because usually we get a full start of the LB at the start of the full LB gauge at the start of the battle from EX plus 2 abilities, but he has that on his robe, so it's going to be curious to see what they do with him, if he gets any buffs at all, that is. Version card, already mentioned, is on Marquise de Leon. So how good is Zoma? I mean, he has innate 400 true double hand magic, which is really good. Absurdly strong STMR, great vision card, same as attack unit though. I considered this good last month before we knew Angela was coming. So in hindsight, the 280x magic finisher thing, he's not that good anymore. I mean, he's still one of the strongest mages, mind you, but compared to Angela, I don't know. Compared to Angela, he's just not good, especially because he needs to stack twice before he reaches this 280x. So yeah, another thing I want to point out, he has only 400 base magic at EX plus 3, which is super low. This is NVA levels of bad, technically speaking. So he won't hit as hard, even close as hard as Angela, for example, on a similar team. Barebones Kit, only 30% ice amp, so you still need to bring Celeste for that 45% amp. But technically speaking, if you want to pull, should you pull, he is clearly the better of the two units, the Dragon Quest units. His damage for a mage is surprisingly high, but keep in mind he's still far behind Angela. And in the grand scheme of things, he doesn't really matter unless they really do buff him. But because he's a Brave Shift unit, he may or may not see some use in Clash of Wills due to his innate resistances. But truth be told, I don't see him being relevant in Clash. But he's a good pick for Ice Stages and Dark Visions. Although, if I had the choice between Angela or Zoma, I would always pick Angela, truth be told. Even if it meant stacking her LB 5 times prior to finally defeating the boss. But that's the world we live in. So yeah, pulling for the Estimer alone should be worth it, though. Alright, we're almost done, by the way. I know we're 30 minutes in, so this is a long video. Slime. There was a bug recently where Slime was already enviable. Slime gets a few cool gimmicks. Mainly, SLB increases one of his modifier to crazy levels of strong. So yeah, I mean, Slime's gonna be fun. He's an SLB unit, by the way, as you can see. And then we're also getting Dragonlord, base forms, stacks magic, quadcast, something that Shoreline Physalis should have had, but she doesn't. But yeah, in Brave Shift, transforms into a dragon, the good Dragonlord, but yeah, only 180x, LB, but at least he has, or Dragonlord has 135 Fire Emperor, so that's something. Something that Shoreline Physalis should also have on her SLB, but she doesn't. So, technically speaking, this Dragonlord NVA is better than Physalis when it comes to Imperils. That is, not damage. Certainly not damage. And the last one, still somewhere lost in the nether, is Mediena, SLB unit. She does basically the same thing that Zoma does. So it would make sense to release her alongside Shoreline, Physalis and Coastal Freesia, just so people can get her and get over this, over with it. But then again, having Mediena would not make much sense. Or when they release Mediena prior to Zoma, there's little incentive to pull for Zoma because the difference. I mean, there is obviously a difference, but it isn't as high as you would make out to be, because Mediena, as you can see, 125x ice magic damage, but with 50% spirit ignore, meaning it's effectively 250x modifier, and Zoma only has 280. So the difference isn't that big between Mediena and Zoma. So it's kind of, yeah, Gumi maneuvered themselves into a pickle by waiting so long for Mediena to release that whenever they do, it's either going to be before Zoma, which would be bad for Zoma, or after Zoma, which would mean Mediena is useless immediately. Anyway, so this is my release prediction. I fully expect us to get Auron next week. Raid event. We haven't had a raid event in quite a while. After that is Shoreline Physalis and Coastal Freesia story event, but without the story because global. On the 16th, we'll get our Eldryn Rework banner, plus potentially Item World. On the 23rd, we get our Christmas Clash unit with some event, probably. And on the 30th, I believe Dragon Quest was a raid event, so That's entirely possible. We've had double raid events in a month already. Who doesn't remember that double raid event back to back with, I believe Lara was the second raid event in a row back then. So we've had bad things happen before. But this time around, it's not going to be back-to-back raid events, so that's good. And yeah, again, Mediena probably releases alongside Physalis and Freesia. And that is it for the month of December, so lots of things to look forward to. Let's see if I'm wrong. Alright, I'm very curious to see, and I'd love to read your predictions as well, so post them in the comments. I will gladly read them and answer. And yeah, have a wonderful rest of the... Today is Saturday, I believe. I think I'm releasing this video on Saturday or Sunday. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend and morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you're from. See you then. Bye bye.